Hey, my loves. Welcome to Power Conversations and Connections with Susan, where we talk life, the beauty and vulnerability on the journey to self-love and evolving into our best selves. Thank you for joining the conversation. Today is going to be interesting. It's going to take me, I know, down memory lane. So what I'd like you to do is to think about what this means for you, right? Because that's who it's about. My stories, my journey is to help you to get your journey moving sooner, figuring it out sooner, and becoming quite comfortable with loving yourself well before, I did. So I want to do a little foundational work here. Know when it's time to go to work to save yourself. Now, if you think I'm talking about work as in a job, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, when do you know that it's time to really go to work on yourself so that you save yourself and not wreck yourself? Because that's the beauty and the vulnerability on the journey that you will have to confront. This is about confronting you and confronting those things in your environment that are helping you to not be your best. For me, it started with my dad's alcoholism. I'm the youngest of 8, and we grew up in the Desire projects, which were great at that time. But when my dad got injured, we moved to the suburbs, to Marrero. And my dad had to retire because of an injury. He could no longer be a longshoreman. And I know that they had demons in his family. And what I mean by that is things that they didn't reconcile, things that they never dealt with other than through alcohol. So by the time we moved to Marrero, my dad was a stone cold alcoholic, right? I could mince words with you, but it just would sound cute. My dad was an alcoholic. And the way that affected me was he was an alcoholic inside. So in other words, he didn't go out to the bars and get drunk and come home and, or go out to the club. He was older than that anyway. But he didn't drink his alcohol and then come inside where I would just get the finishing parts of it. No, he was an alcoholic who was home all day. So I got to see everything live and in living color, right? From 3rd grade to going off to college, I can envision my dad sitting in the recliner drinking every day, all day, getting drunk every day, all day. Now, we had a relationship. I loved him. He loved me. We would have moments where we would have conversation, where we'd look at TV together, and I introduced him to the game of tennis, via the TV because I wanted to play tennis. I always wanted to do something different. Like I wanted to play tennis, I wanted to play volleyball, I wanted to play softball. I never wanted to do like what everybody else was doing, I think, because that was going to make me stand out, right? But it was that alcoholism that had such an effect on me that most of it I didn't even realize until I was going further into school. I knew that I was angry, but I didn't know the extent of my anger. Meanwhile, if you know me, if I've ever coached you, I would have said meanwhile at the ranch because that's what I say. But meanwhile, my mom was there. My mom was taking care of the household. My mom was making sure, that I was okay, that everything was, she was momming. She was doing, what she could and needed to do for the family. My dad was supporting us because, as I said, he had retired. And so it was that, right? But if you think about it, 8 years old, 9 years old, 10 years old, in and out of homes that maybe had one parent, in and out of homes, my friends that had two parents. And every time I came home, I had my mom. Whether it was to have a conversation or whether it was just simply the presence. But I didn't have my dad like that. We didn't get a chance to build a connection like that. And so I was resentful of that. Now, did I look for other men to give me that at that time? No, I didn't know what that was. I just knew that my dad drank. Now, where my anger came in is he was also very loved and very known. We had a close community. We all knew each other. We were all friends. So I had friends, and my friends' family, everybody knew Mr. Robinson. Everybody. Everybody knew Mr. Robinson. Everybody, when they walked down the street, the sliding glass door was right there. He was sitting right there. They're going to come in. They're going to stop. He had his people. They would come and bring him something to drink. Without a doubt, what can I do for you, Mr. Robinson? Come in, as we used to say, shoot the shit, right? And they used to get these pints of white port. And that was his drink of choice, white port. I used to call it rot gut alcohol because it just pissed me off. So I didn't know at that time if it was exceptional alcohol or if it was rot gut alcohol. To me, that was just the name I gave it, right? So that anger kind of fueled me and my lack of self-love. On the other hand, I had my mom who would do everything from sewing my mom was that mom. My mom would make our clothes. My mom would sew our slips, as in make a slip for under our dresses. So I grew up sewing. I grew up seeing my mom having the sewing machine over here, the ironing board over there, the patterns over here. You cut the patterns out on the kitchen table, you take it to the sewing machine. From there, you take it over to the ironing board and sew it. Oh, she had it going on in that area. So there was a lot of laughter and that sort of thing. But at the end of the day, I would be angry at what I didn't have versus seeing what I had. And so low self-esteem, lack of confidence. Even though if you go back and listen to the first episode, that's where I learned how to put a great mask on. You know how we do. We smile, we seemingly have it all together, but inside we got some stuff going on, right? So I delved into my studies. My dad's alcoholism affected me in terms of, my relationships. I think because of that, that's why I've always had a close group of friends. That's why I've always been able to be a good friend and to have close friends, because I didn't need all of y'all. I didn't need everybody. I didn't need everybody going in and out of my house. I wasn't necessarily ashamed. I don't know if that was it, but I just had my circle and I was good with that, And so my dad had episodes where he would go real deep into the alcoholism. And I remember, some of those being so bad that I just couldn't understand how you would do that, how you could go all the way there. Now I do, because addiction is addiction. People don't get addicted to, alcohol because they wake up in the morning and say, oh gosh, I can't wait to do this alcoholic thing. And no, but it's a disease. It's a habit, but it's a disease. And what we have today, it was a little bit there, but it wasn't like, he was going to go to AA and do all of that stuff. It just wasn't that type of environment, right? It was a disease and it had him. But in the midst of that, it had me too. I was fat. I was black. I was decently dressed, always, always. I didn't have a lot of close relationships with my sisters because they were older. I had a few friends. I had a great neighborhood that I lived in. But overall, there were holes and there were gaps. And so I became an academic. Like I was going to be the one, right? So I went into my studies, and that was my relief. I went into sports that no one else in the neighborhood was playing. So we lived, not too far from a tennis court. I learned how to play tennis. My neighbor down the street taught me how to play tennis. Learned how to play tennis. In middle school, I played volleyball. No one else was really playing volleyball, right? But I tell you an instance, and I'll give you a story of how my anger manifested itself, even in those places. Playing tennis, one of my rivals, even though she was on my team, literally, I want you to hear this. She was on my team. We're playing for the same school, but she was what I was not. So in my eyes, I didn't care for her. She was slender. She had nice hair. She had caramel colored skin. And she was just a cutie. And she knew it. And she flaunted it. And I was angry. And one game, she won. It was a practice, y'all. It really wasn't that deep. We was practicing for our competition. She won the game. She, at that time in the world of tennis, you would jump across the net if you won. She jumped across the net. I pulled the net up. She fell and broke her tooth. I think I was forced to say I'm sorry. Did I feel sorry? I felt bad, but I don't know that I was sorry. It's like, well, it is what it is, right? That was that anger. That was that deep-seated, you don't really care about me, I don't care about you even more. Right? So I did my academics and I poured into my studies. Year after year after year, I poured into my studies. And I got great grades. Always. A's, B's. I think I might have made a C in biology, but I loved my teacher and my teacher loved me. So we kind of worked it out, but he still gave me a C. I understood. I never did like all the frogs and all that stuff. But anyway, graduated high school a year early. That's how good I was. I finished high school at 16 and got a full scholarship to Dillard University, one of the best HBCUs this side of the Mississippi. Full scholarship except room and board. So I would come across the river my freshman year. I would come across the river every day, back and forth to school. It wasn't until my sophomore year that I moved on campus. But coming back across the river every day, I entered into a space at Dillard where my term, the beautiful people, went on a whole different level for me. Because you see, as I was dealing with my dad's alcoholism, as I was dealing with my weight and my self-esteem and, my lack of confidence and all of those things, and hiding all of that really well on the inside, not really having an outlet to talk to those things, and I don't know that I didn't have it or I didn't take advantage of it. I don't think it was a space and a time where we had conversations, like conversations I have with my daughter. Like, I wasn't going to go to my mom and tell her, his sitting over there all day long, pisses me off. We just wasn't going to have that kind of conversation. So I held a lot of that stuff in, and I wanted to be accepted, and I wanted to be validated. And what I'm saying to you is all of these things play a role in us not loving who we are. Your story is not my story. But what is your story? What is the thing, or what are the things? What are those foundational things? Mine started in my recollection at 8 years old. What is it that is stopping you? Do you know? Have you figured that out yet? If you haven't figured it out, hang with us. Join the conversation. Tell us what's going on. Because either we are there and we've gotten through, or we're there now and we can support each other through. Right?